I feel like it's been at least a couple of good weeks or months since we've had a very interesting Grand Theft Auto 6 leak, and it looks like we just ended up getting one the other day. And this has some serious implications, if it does turn out to be true, on where the next Grand Theft Auto game is going to take place. So this all sort of spawned the other day when a synthwave artist ended up putting out a very interesting tweet. So this tweet ended up coming from the synthwave group Vectorhold. And their tweet was this: GTA 6 will most likely take place in Vice City. Music rights clearing people have been hitting up synthwave artists for a, in quotes, radio station. That was the entire tweet. And there's a couple of interesting things that have happened since then. But first, you guys might be wondering who or what Vectorhold actually is. Now, don't feel bad if you don't know who they are. I didn't know who they are. I do like that sort of retro 80s synthwave type of music, but I didn't know who they were. That's okay. I'm sure there's people who do. I'm sure there's people who don't. According to their website, Vectorhold is a new retro 80s synthwave project by Peter Brian Rice from the San Francisco Bay Area, specializing in sound design and production for 80s and 90s retro gaming soundtracks and film scoring. And if you guys are actually interested in checking out this music group Vectorhold, I'll leave a link to their website in the description. But just from what their website has to say, it looks like they clearly have a foothold in like 80s, 90s music, but also doing video game scores and soundtracks. And that's obviously really cool. So immediately right off the bat, I would say it gives them a bit more credibility than just a random person saying that GTA 6 is going to be taking place in Vice City. It's very clear that they are a professional music group. They have released several bits of music. Again, you can check them out in the description. And it looks like they sort of specialize in something and someone that Rockstar might be working with. Now, getting back to the tweet that they talked about, let's go back into that. They basically said GTA 6 is going to take place in Vice City. And this is not the first time we have heard this rumor, or at least reports of this. In fact, there have been several credible rumors that have suggested that GTA 6 is going to take place partly, mostly, or altogether in Vice City. One of the biggest leaks and rumors for Grand Theft Auto 6, the Project America's rumors. A couple of months ago, we also saw a scouting document end up getting leaked out that basically said Rockstar and Take-Two Interactive were going into various businesses in South Florida and in Miami, which is Vice City is traditionally based upon, the parody city in game. So that right there was another hint and clue that Rockstar was doing something in Vice City. And in previous videos, I've talked about my own sort of personal speculation for why I believe Vice City would work so well. We obviously don't know when the game is going to take place, whether it's in the 80s or in present day, but still, that sounds pretty awesome. And the reason for his explanation, this group Vectorhold, is that music rights clearing people have been hitting up synthwave artists for a radio station. And I know nothing about the synthwave music community, but I would imagine that either themselves were contacted by these music rights clearing people, or someone in his like group of friends or circle has been contacted by them, and they obviously let him know. And again, it wouldn't be shocking if the synthwave community was very tight-knit and that they're all sharing this with one another. Now, what's also interesting about this entire saga is his tweet was actually deleted. Now, we don't know for how long the tweet was actually up, but if you were to go to that tweet, which I'll leave a status page for that in the description, it's basically just the URL saying the tweet has been deleted. You obviously won't be able to find it. So that's even more interesting because there is plenty of claims on Twitter and on other various websites where Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to take place, even mentioning GTA 6. But the fact that this was swiftly deleted, to me, indicates that this has a higher probability of being true. Because I would imagine a tweet like this was put out, And then either they were contacted directly by Rockstar Take-Two Interactive, or the music rights clearing people saying, hey, you have to take that down. You're not allowed to talk about it. Or maybe he was contacted by one of his other friends or other synthwave artists, and they said, dude, I told you that, but you can't like be tweeting about it. And so he ended up taking it down. To me, I think this means it's a good thing. Usually when something is true in relationship to Rockstar, if it's fake or unverified or just not real, usually you'll see it up because Rockstar won't like dive into taking down something that's fake. So the fact that this has been removed, I actually think is good news. Now, a couple of other things that are interesting here is how far along this puts GTA 6. So if they're just starting to clear music rights, a lot of people were wondering this would be towards the end of production. And a lot of people ended up saying that this means the game is usually 1 or 2 years away from being finished, as these things are done typically towards the end of development. And the last thing regarding the music and the radio stations, as far as how they work, when Rockstar shipped Grand Theft Auto 5, a lot of the songs were still pretty new, even back in 2013. So, for example, Real 1 by YG only released about 6 months before Grand Theft Auto 5 did. And the song Say That Then by Problem released only 2 months before Grand Theft Auto 5 ended up dropping. So based on how they handled GTA 5, it does seem like the music is the very last thing on their to-do list. And again, I know nothing about the process of making video games, but yes, I would likely imagine that putting in the in-game radio station, soundtrack, and music is probably something that is done towards the end. Once the story has already been established, the characters have been created, I feel like that's a slightly easier thing to do, or something that could be done towards the end. Now, another question this has been raising is what time period would this suggest GTA 6 takes place in? So, since they're looking for 80s and 90s synthwave music, a lot of people are possibly thinking that this could be Vice City again taking place in the 80s. However, you even saw similar stations like this in GTA 5. There was sort of synthwave-ish music, and we know that takes place in modern times. So just because the music that they were going for is 80s and 90s retro synthwave doesn't necessarily mean that's when the game is going to be taking place. It could have just been for a very specific radio station. But if it is going to be in the 80s and 90s, that would make sense why more of the radio stations would probably be sort of that synthwave-ish vibe. Now, really just my speculation here at the end. Hopefully this means that GTA 6 is not as far off as everyone seems to believe. I still think we are a bit away from the game obviously coming out. I think that's probably going to occur in 2022 at the earliest, more likely 2023. But this does get me a bit more hopeful and excited that an actual announcement or a trailer or a reveal in some way, shape, or form could happen maybe later this year, probably though in 2021. And honestly, that's all I think we can really hope for here. We obviously know that the game isn't going to be coming out like in a month or in a couple of weeks or anything like that, but it would just be nice to hear from Rockstar saying like, hey, we're working on this sort of thing. You'll hear about it soon. It's really exciting. Kind of like what they did with GTA 5. We just like want to know it's a thing and exists, because right now they haven't said a single thing. And I think that's what's getting people frustrated, is like that they know a new GTA game is going to be created. It's just obvious. It's just wondering when it's going to be happening and Rockstar actually officially announcing that. Now, as we wrap things up really quickly, this did remind me of something similar that happened right before GTA 5 was released. I'm sure many of you guys know of a popular musician. His name is Kavinsky. He actually put out a tweet, like I think a couple of months before GTA 5's release, or maybe it was a couple of years. I don't really remember. It was a long time ago. But he essentially just put out a tweet that said Night Ride FM. And apparently he was supposed to be the host of a radio station, Night Ride FM. And reports started going around that he was going to be the host. And obviously when the game came out, Night Ride FM didn't exist. So it begged the question, was Night Ride FM made up? Was it something that was cut from the game at the last minute? I don't think we will ever know, and at this point in time, GTA 5, at least its story is so old, I don't know if we'll ever get an answer from either him or Rockstar on that subject. But that was something that got a lot of GTA 5 players excited, and it turned out to not be the case. Now, I know this is a little different because at that point in time, GTA 5 had already been announced. At this point in time, GTA 6 has not been announced, but you get the idea. Just because something is put out on Twitter doesn't necessarily make it real. But like I said, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments down below. Let me know what you think about this entire saga, a new GTA 6 leak that is very, very interesting. Again, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments down below, so let me know what you're thinking down there. If you guys did go to enjoy this video, though, a like rating would, of course, be awesome. And be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are new, or you want to stay up to date on all the latest GTA and Red Dead Redemption videos that I'm doing here on my channel. And be sure to ring that notification bell as well. Sometimes YouTube just doesn't work, and if you ring that bell, you'll always be guaranteed to be notified when new videos arrive. But of course, as always, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.